Hello and welcome everyone. In this video tutorial, we will discuss the difference between a function and a method in Python. So we will start off this video by understanding what is a function in Python. Then we will discuss what is a method, and then we will cover the key differences between a function and a method in Python. Now both function and a method in Python are quite similar to one another. However, there are certain differences between them. So in this tutorial, we will try to cover the difference between both of these, and we will start off this topic with function. So basically a function in Python is just an independent block of code that has its own scope and executes a defined task. Moreover, to call a function in Python, we just need to call a function by its name. In addition to this, a function might take 0, 1 or even more number of arguments, and it may or may not return a value of its execution in the program. Now, we have already discussed this thing that to define a function in Python, we use the def keyword. So let us understand the whole concept with the help of an example. I will move to my Visual Studio Code. I have already created one main.py file. Now let's define a function. To define a function, I will simply define the def keyword and then I will specify the name of the function. Let me name this function as multiply. I will also give some argument to this function. Let's give x and y as an argument to this function. Now what this function will do, it will calculate the product between x and y and then it will return the result. So I will define another variable result here which will store the value of x into y and then it will simply return the result. So in this way we have easily defined a function in Python. Now here you can see this whole code of block is independent. Now if I want to use this function, I have to directly call the function by its name and I also have to specify the argument values with it. So for example, if I want to calculate the product of I guess 12 and 23, what I will do here, I will simply call the multiply function. Now within the parentheses I have specified the value of x and y. So I want to calculate the product between 12 and 23, so I will specify that value. Now if I open my terminal and if I run this program, so I will type python and then the name of the file which is main.py. So here you can see we got this result. Let me put space here as well and again run this. So here you can see it has returned this thing, product of 12 and 23 is 276. So in this way we can define a function and we can use that function by directly calling it. Now we have already discussed this thing that function in Python is being categorized into three major categories. So there are built-in functions. For example, we have used the help function. We have also used the type function. Then after built-in function, there are user-defined functions. So here on the screen, multiply is a user-defined function. So a function which has been defined by the programmer itself is a user-defined function. Then there is anonymous function. So we have already covered about anonymous function, which are also known as lambda function. Let's quickly come to the next topic of methods in Python. Basically in Python, a method and a function are quite similar. However, a function in Python is an independent code of block, but a method on the other hand is linked to the object or the class. So in the previous tutorial, we have discussed about the concept of classes and objects. So a method is simply a function which is defined within a class, and it is linked to that particular class. So despite being connected with the object, a method is called by its name. So to call a method, we just need to use the same procedure. We have to call a method by its name, just like we do for function. The initial parameter in the method is self. So we have already discussed about this thing, the self variable. When a method is called, the object on which it is been called is implicitly passed, and we have already discussed this thing as well. Data may or may not be returned from a method, just like a function. Moreover, the data contained by the relevant class can be used in that function, or we can say it will be used in that method as well. So let's discuss an example related to method as well. So I will quickly come back to my Visual Studio Code and I will remove this thing. Now as I told you, to define a method we first need a class. So I will first define a class. We name this class as calculator, and within this class let's first take some values using the constructor. So I will use the init function and I will take the value of x and y and I will assign the value for x and y as well. Now I will use this x and y value to calculate addition between both of these. So I will create a function which will return sum between x and y. So I will simply type self.x plus self.y. In the same way I will create another function. Now here this add function is a method of a class. In the same way I will create another method. Let me name this method as diff and it will calculate the difference between x and y. Now let's see how we can use that method. So as I told you, each method in Python is linked to an object of the class. So first what we need to do, we have to define an object for this calculator class. So I have named this object as cal, and while defining the class I have to pass the value for x and y. Let's pass the value as 56, or I will pass it the value of y as 45. Now we have defined the object. Now how we have to use this? I will print the sum, and to call this method, first I need to use the object dot and then the method, so add. In the same way I have to use it to call the diff method. Now let's run this program. So here you can see we got this result. So first it has returned the sum as 101. So sum has been calculated between 56 and 45, and then the difference is also been calculated between 56 and 25. So the difference between them is 11 and the sum between them is 101. So by this what we have understand? So basically a function in Python is always defined independently, whereas a method is always defined within a class in Python, and we can call a function directly, while to call a method in Python we have to use an object. In contrast to methods which can change an object state, Python functions typically act as an object without changing its state. Now I hope with this you all understand the key difference between a function and a method in Python, and with this we have also come to the end of this tutorial session. Thank you so much for watching this video. We will see you in the next one.